Hello, everybody. It's John Pollock alongside Jimmy Corderas. We're coming out of the WWE's Elimination Chamber event from beautiful Corpus Christi, Texas, Jimmy. And we spent a lot of time last week talking about this particular city, which does have a bit of a reputation. Did they live up to said reputation on Sunday night?
Absolutely, they did. I think the Corpus part of Corpus Christi is very appropriate.
The corpse was dead and gone, I believe, on Sunday night. Yeah. But they did have their moments. I mean, they were up for some portions, but other parts, I mean, there were times you could literally hear a group of 2 or 3 people chanting. I think at one point I literally heard one guy chanting for a wrestler. I mean, it was pretty barren out there in the crowd at times. And
that's the problem with Corpus Christi. And this isn't like, oh my God, Corpus Christi is very quiet. This has been an ongoing thing. And you know, you mentioned this before we came on the air here, that this was originally built as a live event, non-televised live event, a house show, so to speak.
Yes.
So maybe that's the reason why part of the crowd was not.
Well, it's very noticeable. I mean, we can localize it here in Toronto that when you go to a house show at the Ricoh Center versus a Raw taping at the Air Canada Center, you will see very different crowds. Yep. I mean, there's a higher volume of kids and families that might go to a house show that are not going on a Monday night to a television taping where you are going to get more of your diehard wrestling fans going to. So it is a bit of a cross section when it comes to the kind of audiences you get for different shows.
No, absolutely. And it definitely showed on Sunday. That's for sure.
Well, let's chat first about the main event involving Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, a tribute to one Virgil Runnels with the finish of Dean Ambrose pinning Seth Rollins. We thought we had the title changed, but then it was turned into a disqualification, and thus Seth Rollins keeps the title, but Dean Ambrose stealing the championship, and presumably we've got the rematch coming up in 2 weeks at Money in the Bank.
I thought it was a good match. I thought it started off slow, built very nicely. I mean, that's the whole idea, and that's, you start off the match, you want people to build, you want the match to build to the finish, and that's where you want your best reaction or your biggest reactions to happen. And of course, going back to the old quote-unquote dusty finish, the old 80s thing.
Which maybe you can explain what the dusty finish to those that maybe are not familiar with the term that are hearing it.
Usually it incorporates 2 referees. One will get bumped and out of the way. Usually in some fashion that would instigate a disqualification if he were not incapacitated to call it. A second referee will come down and count a pinfall, usually for the babyface, and then he appears to win the match, but when the original referee comes to, he comes back and informs the second referee that, well, the heel pulled me in the way in this case and caused a disqualification by putting his hands on me and pulling me in the way of my opponent, so the disqualification supersedes the actual pinfall.
And it was, largely credited to Dusty Rhodes, but typically it was done at a time when they first introduced it. I mean, it did get a good reaction, but they did it so many times where the audience would leave the arena thinking they had seen a title change, something historic, and then you tune into television that weekend and find out, oh, it was changed to a disqualification, and you did not see a title change, and thus they would get out of things.
Well, with the crowd we have today, too, the more educated fans now that they know a little more about what's going on, they a lot of them, I would say, saw it coming. I don't know if everybody saw it coming, but again, it's that cycle of what's old is new again, and we haven't seen a finish like this in a long time.
No, and they wanted to stretch this out to at least one more pay-per-view, one more special. That is not going to get out of my vocabulary very easily, whatever we call these Sunday night specials. But you're coming back in 2 weeks, and it's not the same kind of mentality anymore where you're paying $60 and you get upset that you don't get a great finish to the end. This is kind of like closer to watching a television show where it is episodic, and the next major episode is in 2 weeks where presumably you'll get the finality.
Right, and you think back to the old Saturday night's main events, that's exactly what they were. They were to build up usually to one of the big 4 pay-per-views back in the day when there wasn't 12 pay-per-views or 13 or whatever a year. So that seems to be the business model with the network, is these specials will lead to what happens next on television, which will lead to what happens next on the next special or pay-per-view.
Simple math. You look at how many specials they're doing versus how many main events they have, there's going to need to be some feuds that cross over beyond just simply one pay-per-view.
Right.
But a good match. They had a lot to follow on this show, which was very wrestling heavy. There was almost no backstage vignettes. There were no long interview segments. I mean, there were, I believe, 4 matches that went 20 minutes or more on this show. So lots of time given. We can go to the match that everyone is going to be discussing, John Cena and Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens' first match on the main roster. They went 20 minutes. Kevin Owens getting the clean win.
Yes.
And that's largely what this show was centered around, was getting Kevin Owens across as a main event heel. And I think they succeeded.
Absolutely. And going into this match, I know there were a lot of question marks because 2 weeks ago he laid Cena out with the pop-up powerbomb. Again, this past Monday leading into the pay-per-view or the special, again, leaving Cena laying. So, common, knowledge would dictate, okay, Cena gets his revenge on Sunday. And he did to a large degree in getting a lot of offense in on Kevin Owens, but at the same time, Owens hung with the face of the company. And by having him win clean, this is a huge, huge, big deal. And one that kind of surprised me, didn't shock me. I will say it surprised me only because of the way it built leading into this match, that it kind of surprised me because I thought the reverse would happen. I thought Kevin Owens would hang, make a great showing, which is what he did, but somehow get beat by Cena, maybe lay Cena out afterwards.
Yeah, especially with the knowledge that they're coming back with this match 2 weeks later at Money in the Bank. You could have made the argument that this could have been the wild, out-of-control brawl that couldn't be contained, and then you get the big finish 2 weeks from now. Instead, they did give you the clean finish. I think the right person did win for maximum impact, and they threw everything out in this match. And if I do have a minor criticism, it was that this felt like the blow-off match where night one, Kevin Owens, the pop-up powerbomb is being kicked out of, where he's introducing everything under the sun, which I think could have been 6 months down the road, we see that moonsault and just different things. But this was a showcase match. You saw a ton of offense from both guys in this particular match. Kickouts all over the place. It was a very well-received match. And, I mean, I can't criticize too much because I think the objective was get Kevin Owens across as a star, and I think that they succeeded in that regard. But that's only my minor nitpicking, is that you've set the bar at a certain level that you now have to eclipse it, and in such a short window. I don't think you can really digest this win when you're coming back so quick.
If there's anything to criticize, it's exactly what you said, John. And here's the thing, though, and I can see a changing style with not everybody in the WWE, with certain members who are coming in, like a Kevin Owens, like a Sami Zayn, a Neville. It's almost like they're incorporating a lot of their indie style, but kind of tweaking it to reflect the WWE product.
Right.
So it's almost like we're not going to completely change Kevin Owens and who he is. We're going to let him be Kevin Owens, but we're going to put a little bit of a WWE twist on it, and I think it's working perfectly right now.
Yeah, I mean,
but going, like you said, 2 weeks, maybe a little bit soon, but it all depends, again, on the outcome of that match.
Sure.
Could it be a situation where Kevin Owens wins again, and he seems to be the one guy who's got John Cena's number, and John Cena just can't seem to figure this guy out, which leads to a big blow-off match at SummerSlam, maybe along those lines.
Yeah, very, very possible that they could go that route. They have a lot of momentum in Kevin Owens, who has passed with flying colors thus far, whether it be verbally, his presence, which he feels like a main event talent. I mean, he has a charisma and just personality about him that just, it screams star. I think you'd be hard-pressed to miss that, and that's why you look at Kevin Owens and people that only look at him and don't see that. I think you're missing a bigger picture of what this guy conveys, and the booking has complemented him instead of hindering him. So thus far, it's been a home run with Kevin Owens, who has been ready for this spot the second he was brought up a few weeks ago.
Right, and I think there's some seeds planted there as well, because he seems to be Triple H's handpicked guy from NXT. Maybe he's the guy to supplant Seth Rollins as the face of the Authority going forward.
And they planted the seed for that last week when they came out of the promo segment and Seth Rollins kind of dismissing Kevin Owens. I mean, little things like that I hope pay dividends down the road and are not just forgotten. Those are the things that I think are great storytelling tools. When you just you put the hint out there so that if it happens instead of a swerve that no one sees coming, instead it happens, and you go back and you say, of course.
Right.
Those are the things I really like to see, and they've hinted at that. Even leaving the ring last week and had the brief little stare at Dean Ambrose. I mean, just planting little seeds for stuff down the road with Kevin Owens. They have a lot at their disposal.
And one little thing, obviously I've been pumping John Cena a lot the last few weeks, and rightly so, I think. One little thing that was forgotten about last night, too, is after the win by Owens, there was this moment where people were kind of in shock a little bit. You can see people were surprised at the outcome, a clean win by Kevin Owens. John Cena rolls out of the ring and basically gives the ring to Kevin Owens. That little thing, and it may seem insignificant to a lot of people, but that's a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
Where the biggest star in your company just kind of fades into the background and lets this guy have his moment.
Go
really
compare to WrestleMania 6 and Hulk Hogan, who, listen, brilliant guy.
Yeah.
The focus was Hulk Hogan at the end of that match, and almost Ultimate Warrior winning the title that night was almost secondary to, man, what a great guy that Hulk Hogan is. And the spotlight was right there on him. Cena, none of that. It was the business was getting Owens across and the full spotlight on him, because this is the guy I'm feuding with, and I want to be going 50-50 with this guy, and the people believe in this opponent.
Right.
So great presentation from both of them. They'll
Absolutely.
be back in 2 weeks with the rematch at Money in the Bank. Let's chat about the chamber matches, which the name of the show was named after. We had 2 of them. Let's start off with the tag title version. The first time they have had the tag titles defended in the chamber match, it was the New Day. All 3 members of the New Day defending the tag titles. 5 separate teams. We had Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, Los Matadores, the Lucha Dragons, the Primetime Players,
and the Ascension.
Kidd and Cesaro, did I mention them?
Yeah,
I think we covered the 6.
I think you got him.
Very hard off the top of your head here.
Yeah.
13 guys were in this particular match, and New Day retains, not surprising in that regard, but it seemed that, I was really anticipating that a lot of guys who don't typically get these lengthy 20-plus minute matches, such as Los Matadores, the Lucha Dragons, and mixed in there with the New Day and Kidd and Cesaro, I thought we were going to get some great interaction with all of those teams. Instead, the focus seemed to be getting the Ascension across. They got 2 eliminations in this, and then the Primetime Players lasting until the end, which were the 2 teams I thought would kind of be afterthoughts in this match, and instead they were the focal points.
Yeah, and I understand it, but at the same time, I still like the dynamic with Cesaro and Kidd being in there till the end. Those guys have a lot to offer as far as match quality goes. And the other 2 teams, like you said, the Lucha Dragons and
Los Matadores.
Los Matadores. You know what? You let them go, especially in an environment like that. And,
I thought they would have. I thought this was going to be a great showcase for, in particular, those 2 teams who I think Los Matadores people kind of just write off, but they're very talented performers.
Yeah, so I thought this would be an opportunity for them to shine, and they did a little bit, but at the end of the day, I guess the main point was, like you said, try to reestablish the Ascension as a viable threat and to get the Primetime Players on the map.
They really got their work ahead of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of work ahead of them there. But again, the right guys won. I thought the match was okay. I didn't have a problem with it. I think it was a good choice to kick off the special.
Yeah, I thought this was the better of the 2 chamber matches, but I don't think either of these chamber matches you'd be putting in any kind of high regard when it comes to the chamber matches, which typically are A, very good matches, and B, very high stakes attached, typically a world championship, a WrestleMania title shot. This segues to the second chamber match for the vacant IC title. I think the stakes were minimal in this. I don't think anyone really was, the most over performer in this was Rusev, who was taken out of it due to his foot injury and inserted as Mark Henry. I just think people weren't invested in the people in the match, nor the title they were fighting for. And this one went 25 long minutes, and it was in front of a crowd that didn't seem at all interested in this match.
No,
there was silence at times during this. I've got to say this was a pretty disappointing match to me.
It was disappointing, and given the participants in the match, I was expecting a lot more because you've got the human bump machine, Dolph Ziggler in there. Obviously, Mark Henry adds a little different element, but World's Strongest Man, I thought there'd be a lot more power stuff from Mark Henry. The whole thing didn't
Mark
work.
Henry was an odd choice of the replacement. I mean, just out of nowhere, hasn't been on TV for months. Just kind of out of nowhere. I guess perhaps the connection that he's from Silsbee, Texas, that they thought the Corpus Christi crowd maybe would react to him in that regard. But he didn't really play any factor in this match.
And I know a lot of people were thinking maybe Bray Wyatt would be the guy to sub in. I just don't see Bray Wyatt as a guy chasing titles right now. It's almost like his character is more the new face of fear in the WWE.
And they're being very selective when they put Bray Wyatt in matches. They're trying to push across that he's this special attraction that you don't always get to see wrestle. And I'm kind of like you. I didn't see them putting the title on him, and they're not going to beat him without a reason for it. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to put Bray Wyatt in there.
No, but at the end of the day, going back to the chamber match, again, given the participants in the match, disappointing. R-Truth, got
an elimination.
Got an elimination and then got eliminated.
Wow, that King gimmick. That King of the Ring doing wonders for one Wade Barrett.
I know. I don't get that in the least what's going on. He's having a worse run than Billy Gunn, if that's possible, as King of the Ring.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have a Kiss My Ass match scheduled for SummerSlam yet. So
we don't know.
See that was Billy Gunn's big reward for winning the King of the Ring that year, a Kiss My Ass match with Dwayne Johnson. But this match, as I said, it went very long. Ryback wins, gets the Intercontinental title. I thought the most telling portion of this match were the announcers noting that Dolph Ziggler is a 5-time Intercontinental Champion, Wade Barrett is a 4-time champion, which just begs the question, what has this title really done where they've won these titles? These two alone have won it a combined 9 times, and I think that a lot of these guys are just in that log jam in this particular mid-card. And an Intercontinental title does not mean a step forward. It means that you're just staying in place. It's not a valued title, and it's much closer to the King of the Ring than anything.
Right, and it's unfortunate because the unfortunate circumstance with Daniel Bryan, because obviously he was pegged as the guy that was going to elevate this title back to prominence, and due to unfortunate circumstances, his injury, that didn't happen. Will Ryback be the guy to do that? I doubt it very much. You need someone. Man, do you go with a guy like Randy Orton to bring prominence back to that Intercontinental Championship? You need somebody.
I feel if they had that desire, I mean, Randy Orton had nothing going on. He's been working live events. He's not hurt. He's on the road. He just didn't have any program, and they specifically didn't want him in this match. So I think that kind of tells you where they see Randy Orton being above this title. And when you have that mentality, I think the audience is smart to that stuff. They understand that, hey, okay, this is the level of guys going for this title. And conversely, Money in the Bank is a secondary title that people take much more seriously because that is seen as a vote of confidence in a guy. And most times, not all times, the person who wins that briefcase, they have pegged for much higher things and to take him seriously.
But to play devil's advocate, like you said, perception sometimes is reality. And when John Cena went after the U.S. title, people saw that as a step down for John Cena, and now we've seen throughout this whole Cena Open, U.S. Open challenge, it's working. So if you get the right guy in the right circumstance and in the right situation, it can work. I think it can work with a Randy Orton, someone of that stature.
Maybe we should have seen a heel win this title, Jimmy, and then every week they come out for the closed challenge, and they will only defend the title every 30 days.
But then every male title would be held by a heel, technically. Well, Cena's technically not a heel, but yeah, he is with a large majority of the audience. So.
Well, that's certainly one of those heels is Nikki Bella, who retained the Divas title, pinning Naomi. Paige also in the match. And then we had Neville defeating Bo Dallas, clean with the Red Arrow. The Divas match, I was somewhat surprised. I thought that Naomi, it would freshen things up for her to win the title. Not only didn't win the title, also took the fall in this match, leading me to think that Nikki Bella and Paige is the program, based off the fact Paige did win that Battle Royal in England a couple of weeks back. Maybe they go that direction. But Naomi's been a really fresh character and nearly murdered Paige with this reverse Hurricane Rana at one point during the match, which looked that was an ambitious move.
Yeah, but they worked hard, and I like the effort. That's the main thing. I like the effort. They're trying hard. Maybe they are getting pushed a little bit by after watching some of the ladies down at NXT, and they're getting a little motivation now to actually experiment and try new things, like you said, the Rana there. Something needs to happen with the ladies division, and it's not a knock against the Bellas because they have improved as much as I think they will. That's the only problem. I don't know. I don't know how much more they can improve. They've gotten better. I think there needs to be a little bit of an influx of maybe new talent from NXT, but you can't do a wholesale change. I can't see a total like 180 in the direction. It has to be a slow progression. Maybe you have someone like a Charlotte come in and start taking out some of the ladies and start, setting a new direction, so to speak, for the Divas division. But something needs to change there. And I thought, like you said, I thought Naomi would have been a good choice for Divas champion. But
where are your thumbs for this particular Sunday night special? Mine are firmly in the middle for this one. I'm not going to say up or down.
No, I'm going to say slightly up, only because I was pleasantly surprised with the effort by everybody. I will give two thumbs down to the crowd in Corpus Christi. That's for sure. I understand logistics and why they go to Corpus Christi for televised events, because the facility lends itself well to produce, aesthetically to producing television. It's just,
Jimmy Corderas, he's not running for mayor of Corpus Christi anytime soon.
Oh, no. Well, if I did, maybe we'd move the building. If we can lift it out and just place it somewhere where the fans actually react.
Well, they will be in Columbus, Ohio on June the 14th. That's their next show. Money in the
Frankie
Bank.
Williams' hometown.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, from Columbus, Ohio.
There you go. Nationwide arena. We've got the rematch with John Cena and Kevin Owens, and they have announced, obviously, the Money in the Bank ladder match. We've got, let's see if I can remember them all off the top of my head. We have Sheamus, Dolph Ziggler, Neville, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, Kofi Kingston. Those are our 6. They're going to be adding some more names as well. Any thoughts on the participants here, including, how about Ziggler and Sheamus losing their match and getting a spot in the match? Like, wouldn't Ryback have a case here?
Yeah, I think Ryback would have a case since he just won the chamber match.
But literally won't have a case.
No, he won't. Not even a briefcase. No. A couple of the choices. Obviously, I think Ziggler's in there for one reason only, is he's, like I said before, he's a human bump machine, and he's good for a few high spots there. Neville, the same thing. I'm predicting possibly a red arrow off a ladder somewhere in that match, maybe just to get his big spot in. Randy Orton and RKO off a ladder. But I think this match kind of lends itself perfectly for Roman Reigns to be the guy.
Roman Reigns, certainly, you look at that, he seems to be a valid pick. The fact that they have announced that there will be more names to be added, do you expect main roster ones? Do you see any surprises of maybe somebody from NXT being thrown into this match, as there seems to be a very heavy emphasis at this point about integration of NXT talent on the main roster? I
honestly hope not, only because I want that slow integration to be very slow. I don't want a big rush, because if you start moving too many guys up, then they'll get lost in the shuffle. Because after if you insert Finn Balor into the Money in the Bank match, then what? I mean, like after that, I don't see him winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. So it's kind of like the wrong time for him to debut. And then you've got the issue now with Kevin Owens, who is the NXT champion, going to be on the main roster for a long period of time. There's a question now, does he have to drop that title before he becomes like a total...
Yeah, it feels like you do have to get that title off him at some point. I don't think it's detrimental that he's doing both. There's a bit of a crossover period. He's not just stopping NXT cold. And does add something when your NXT champion is not just on the main roster, but you just beat John Cena. It's not like this is a guy that's going up there and just losing to all these guys and kind of devaluing their title. So I think that they have some wiggle room there, but at some point you are going to have to.
There is an out, though, I think, without him having to actually lose to someone in NXT for the title.
And what would that be?
He's having his issues with William Regal down there, is he not?
Oh.
And actually headbutted him at one point. Maybe I know this won't be popular with a lot of people, but just to get the Kevin Owens character over, what if he is actually stripped by William Regal of the NXT title for conduct unbecoming a champion?
Oh, my. Well, Commissioner Corderas putting in his 2 cents
just
here.
throwing it out there. Hey, guys. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's our look at WWE's Elimination Chamber show. We'll be back next week as we look at the Money in the Bank, because it's coming up in less than 2 weeks in Columbus, Ohio. So you have more than a week and a half to wake up if you are attending that show at the Nationwide Arena. For Jimmy Corderas, I am John Pollock. Follow him at Jimmy Corderas, at I am John Pollock on Twitter, and we'll chat with you next week.